Everyone. Welcome back to Lisa's Love and Light. I'm back today after being off tomorrow because I had to finish a class and I finished. Thank God because a lot of work, but the class is over and I received my certification. So, anyway, I'm back here today with a new message. Before I get into anything, I just wanted to know how everyone is doing today. The weather is beautiful. We don't have any more rain for right now. And for the month of October, this weather is really nice. I think it's about 75 or 76 degrees out today. So if you're out there, enjoy because I don't know how much longer we're going to enjoy this kind of weather. But everyone, thank you for being here. I appreciate all of your support. And I appreciate the fact that you have been sharing this information, these videos with other people who need to hear the message. And I'm so grateful for that. Always grateful for that. And for your comments, thank you for your positive comments. I really appreciate that, as well as subscribing to the channel. Thank you once again. So, today, everyone, oh, wait, one more thing before I go into the topic of discussion. I'm going to say it here instead of at the end of this discussion. For those newcomers who are here for the first time, I am not a certified therapist of any sort. I don't have a degree in social work. I do have one, but not in this category. However, what I'm doing here on this channel is sharing information with everyone here about grief and healing and some of the things that has helped me heal with the overwhelming amount of grief that I had to deal with during 2020 and then some. It's just been a horrific amount of grief, stress, anxiety, and I am just sharing some things here that help me so that it can help you as well. Okay, so I just wanted to get that message out of the way so you know that I'm not a therapist, I'm just here sharing information. So let's get into the topic now. So, the topic of discussion today is put forth the effort. I have some notes here so that I can cover everything in this video. Put forth the effort, regardless of how hard it is. Make that effort because grief will take you by surprise, especially when you are in an overwhelming amount of grief, because it can be triggered at any given moment. It doesn't matter where you are. And grief does not care who you are, does not care about your status, background, etc. When you experience an overwhelming amount of grief, like a domino effect, it can catch you off guard at any given moment, no matter where you may be or what you're doing. And it's important to know how to deal with that. So, what's important as a priority is learn more about the signs of grief so that you know what to expect. It's so important to learn more about what you're going through because for myself, when I've had like situations of loss before and had, grief associated with it, but not to this degree in 2020. It was an overwhelming amount of grief that really I didn't know how to deal with because I would be triggered any little thing. Like I was in a store one time and I saw a picture of a plant that was similar to the one that I had planted at my mother's gravesite. And I couldn't buy anything. I left a cart full of stuff in the store and had to run out in tears, in the car, sobbing, in a fetal position. And I wasn't able to help it, you know. As a Virgo, I like to be able to, take care of things, etc. But when it comes to grief, it doesn't matter who you are, how you are. Grief can be triggered at any given moment and it can overtake you. This is why it's important to educate yourself about the various situations related to grief. because I didn't know that these things that was happening to me was triggered by grief due to the overwhelming amount of loss. And I didn't know how to handle that. So, what I started to do, since we were in a shutdown and everything was closed off anyway, remember in the beginning of the shutdown, we were only allowed to go out just to go to the supermarket and back. We couldn't do anything else for a long time. So, I started to be on the internet educating myself about grief and what triggers it, why it happens, etc. And I learned a lot about that because the more you know, the more power you have to recognize the signs of what's happening to you. Because I had never felt anything like that before. It's important to know as much as possible about it because then in this way, you know why it's happening. And then you can slowly do the work to get through these things. And it's so important, people, so important. So one of the things I do now is keep busy because, like I said, Sunday nights are the hardest for me because I used to have. First, we started out with Sunday dinners. You know, my mom, when she was well enough, she would do Sunday dinners, and I was so used to that because I grew up with that. And then when she got sick and went into the nursing home, it would be Sunday night conversations with her on the phone, just hearing her voice talking and I look forward to that until, she got sick and she wasn't able to do it anymore. And she actually passed away with the COVID. And I couldn't accept it at first. It was difficult. No more Sundays. And in the beginning, I forgot a lot and I started calling the nursing home. And then I had to hang up because just when they answered the phone, I will remember that she's no longer here. And then I would crawl up in a fetal position and cry myself to sleep. Sunday night is still difficult for me, but I keep myself busy. And that's important too. When you're going through grief, keep busy. Don't You can allow yourself to feel the pain. You have to do that because feeling it and going through crying or whatever you're going through during the trigger moment, allow yourself to feel that, because it's an outlet for the pain. One thing I didn't like is when it would happen, like when I was outside or I was someplace outside and it would be triggered. And grief has no time limit. That's another thing I want to talk to you guys about because some people would say, oh my God, it's been 2 or 3 years. You should be over this by now. Number one, you never get over it. You never get over a loss, especially a loss of a parent, a spouse, a child, etc. You never get over that, but you can get through it in time. You never get over it. And the grief can have happen at any given moment. I still deal with grief, but not to the extreme as I did back then with the triggers. As I educated myself about it and started learning more and reading stories about how other people who had a overwhelming amount of grief, how they dealt with it and how they got through it. And also doing therapy myself. I have a therapist a grief therapist that I still see weekly to talk about things and getting to the root cause of certain things, which is important as well. So just keep yourself busy as much as you can. Start with the little things, because in the beginning, as you go through this grief period, you're not going to want to deal with anything. All you want to do is just be alone, you know, and just stay by yourself. And, but that's good in the beginning. But as time goes by, it's not good to do that all the time because it could lead to depression. It could lead to suicidal thoughts, and you don't want to stay stagnated. Because stagnated, there's no growth, you know, and it's important to allow yourself to feel that pain, but don't stay in that pain. Do things to get yourself out of it. And some of the things that I did to get myself out of it was to keep busy. Like I would do a list of the things that I wanted to do that I like, you know, pamper yourself, pamper that inner child, pamper yourself as you go through that. I didn't have anyone that I could just um, support me and be there. When I say support, to listen and be there, etc. I went through that alone. We were in a shutdown and we didn't have a funeral for my mother. That's another thing that triggered a lot within me. We had a memorial service online because they were not allowing anyone to leave the state here to go to another one, etc., and so forth, because we were just in the beginning stages of the COVID when she passed away. And so they actually shipped her to North Carolina, where we have a family plot, and she was buried there. And then a few days later, we had an online memorial service. So never had a chance. I had that last conversation with her, and she told me that she loved me, and that those were pretty much the last words that I could make out pretty good, because she was in and out like consciousness when we had that last conversation. It was very overwhelming. And you know from time to time I still have feelings when it comes, like overwhelming feelings, but I do things to keep myself busy, because I know people that my mom would never want me to stay depressed, down, and feeling out and miserable for the rest of my life. She wanted me to embrace life to the fullest like she did. Growing up as a child, excuse me, we did a lot of traveling. My mom would always have these bus trips going to Florida. We would go to Connecticut to the Danbury Fair. So many things, the Dorothy Hamill Ice Capades, the Rockettes, and it went on and on and on, because my mother liked to travel. And even after she retired, she did traveling, taking cruises, etc. So I grew up with that. And then having these big Sunday meals. Like I said in prior videos, is that the matriarchs of most families today, or a lot of families today, are no longer here. So the solid ground and foundation of the family doesn't seem the same anymore. And it feels like my mom was the last of that, so to speak. And it's been difficult. When my father passed away, he passed away shortly before I had my son. And he died younger. And that was hard. That was difficult. But my mom, it was overwhelming. It was just worse. And it wasn't just her dying, but losing so many people, like 10 people at one time during a shutdown. And also losing my pet, my pug I had. It was just overwhelming. So I also deal with grief by expressing myself through music, a playlist of music, because it helps to elevate my mood. Because when you're in grief and that leads to depression, it could lower your vibrations, but I raise those vibrations through music, and especially a playlist of my favorite music helps. I'm also, for those who don't know, a published author and writer, and I just completed my third book, in a process of getting published. And writing is so therapeutic, because I put on headsets and I just hear the music as I write. But without that, I'm unable to write anything, to be quite honest. And I do that, and I feel the music as I write, and I come up with these ideas and etc. And that's some of the things that help me. And it took a long time for me to write, because before my mom passed away, I started writing, and then I felt this writer's block as she passed away for a long time. So I didn't have a desire to do it, because I was just so into the depression. And this is why I say to you guys how I got, talk to you here about how I got myself out of it. And it's important to get yourself out of it and not be stuck into it, because I would have never completed that third book. And the company wants the book, and I'm looking forward to having it published. So those things help me. um what else? I have some notes here. So what else I want to say is, whatever you enjoy doing and it lifts your vibration, and makes you feel good, do it. Like, some people can paint well. They enjoy painting. And whether it's painting, volunteer work, or just attending a support group, do those things. And don't beat yourself up if you don't get to it right away, because everybody grief and the way that they get better is different. Just take those baby steps. Just put forth that effort. Even if you get one thing done that entire day, at least you got something done. Don't beat yourself up. Don't be too hard on yourself, because the loss is great. No matter whether it's a parent, a child, a spouse, a best friend, etc., a sibling, the, the loss is great because that person is no longer here in the natural that you can talk to and sit down with. And what I do is I share what my mom taught me, a lot of things. My mom taught me how to be a lady. We would do things. She would tell me not to act out a character about certain things. Handle it like this because you're going to get a better response. And I also had someone that I grew up with. I didn't grow up with, but was like a second grandmother to me because my grandparents lived in North Carolina and they had a farm, and I didn't see them as often as I would like. And this woman was like a grandmother, a second one. I would visit with her when I was a teenager. Everything was about being a woman, and I just doing things accordingly. And all those things that I've learned, even from my grandmother, the time that I spent with her. One of the things that I regret is that I didn't have more time to spend with her because my grandmother was a woman of substance. How do I say that? That she was elegant and she was had a quiet spirit about her. And she had 12 children, but she was very elegant, very subdued, and full of stories like my mother was, storytelling. I think that's where I got my writing ability from. And as a kid, that's all I did is read books, and then just, I don't know, I was just so much into that. And when I went to college, I did a lot of literature, writing classes, poetry, and things like that because I love that stuff. It stimulates, my mind. And that's some of the things that I had to go back to after the grief period, because I had no desire to do any of these things anymore. And grief can overtake you. And it's important that we don't allow it to overtake us. It's so important that we don't allow the grief to overtake us. So, whatever you like doing, slowly get yourself back into it because if it's going to help you, it's going to stimulate you little by little. And don't expect, you know, by tomorrow or next week for you to feel better because you're going to go through grief for a long time. But take baby steps, put forth that effort instead of no effort at all. That is what's so important. Take care of your physical and mental health as well. Make sure you're eating right. Make sure you're getting enough rest and exercise if possible. All those things are important. After everything started to slowly open back up, I hit the gym and I was at the gym all the time. And as I worked out, I had a playlist of music. That was difficult. I'm about to do that again, but that was so difficult because I didn't want to go anywhere, do anything. And it's understandable. But take care of your health and keep moving forward. Don't give up. Take those baby steps. And as you continue to persevere through these things, you will start to see the results and you will start to feel better. But what I would suggest is to educate yourself about the different stages of grief, because that's going to give you more information to go on and it's going to help you in the long run. Thank you all for being here today. Please share this message with other people so that they can get the message as well. And I also stay in prayer with God a lot. I pray and I act in accordance to those prayers. Like if I ask for something, God help me with this, A, B, C, or D. And then I try to do my part in a natural, in accordance to those prayers. And God has been doing the rest. And little by little I get better, and I still have those days. I'm human just like everybody else, and I have those days. And those days that are difficult, I put on more music, and I try to remember my mom's words of what my therapist says to me. My mom would never want me to stay in a place of grief and depression. So I do things to pull myself out of it, as you can do the same as well. Also, get connected to grief bereavement groups, because people there are going to talk about their experiences with grief and how they overcome it. You know, how they are overcoming the depression and anxiety and everything associated with the grief. And I also keep my toxicity level down. You know, anything that's going to create negativity and toxicity that I have control over, meaning that if I don't have to allow it in my life, I don't, you know, because I have enough on my plate. And as I heal, I don't have a desire to have the toxicity in my life anymore, you know, because healing is important to me. You know, when you heal, you do better, you grow, and paying it forward and helping other people. So let's slowly learn how to turn this pain into power, and power into purpose, a purpose to help other people so that they can pay it forward and keep this moving. Thank you for being here today. This is Lisa, sharing love and light and information with you all. Continue to share these videos, subscribe, like, and I'll be back tomorrow with a new message. And everyone, enjoy this weather. We don't know how long it's going to be, but enjoy the weather today. Thank you so much for being here. And I'll see you tomorrow. Bye for now.